Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Sweet Spot of Life. Today's episode is a little bit different. It's more personal, more reflective, and if I'm honest, it's probably the most real I've been so far. Because today I wanted to talk about a shift in me, and a shift in this podcast. And the truth is, those two things are very connected. Over the last few weeks, I have felt completely overwhelmed. Not just a little bit overwhelmed, but the kind of overwhelm where you feel like you can't think straight, where everything feels noisy, where your mind is constantly racing. You're moving from one thing to the next, but never actually being present for any of it. For me, it's been everything: work, basketball, the kids and their activities, running a household, trying to stay organized, trying to remember everything, trying to show up for everyone. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I realized something. I've been in survival mode. You know the feeling where you're just getting through the day, ticking the boxes, doing what needs to be done, keeping everything moving, but you're not actually in your life. You're just managing it. And I think for a long time, I told myself, this is just a busy season. This is normal. This is what life actually looks like now. But recently, I've had to stop and really ask myself, is this how I want to keep living? Because when I really look at it honestly, I've realized something that felt a bit uncomfortable to admit: that I'm not looking after myself. Not in the way I know that I should be. And if I'm not looking after myself, I can't be present and I can't be there for my family, be a good mum, a good wife. I'm not moving my body consistently. My nutrition hasn't been great. I haven't been taking the time to check in with myself mentally or emotionally. And I feel the impact of that in my energy, in my patience for things, in how I respond to things. I snap straight away. And I can see also in how present I am with my family. And that has been the hardest part, because I don't feel like I'm showing up as the best version of myself that I want to be. As I said before, not as a mum, not as a wife, not even in my work. And I think a lot of women will understand this, because on the outside, everything can look handled. But on the inside, you're running on empty. And I had this moment recently. It wasn't anything sort of big or dramatic. It was just a quiet thought that I can't keep going like this. Something has to shift. And that's really where this episode and this change in direction of the podcast comes from. When I started the Sweet Spot of Life, I thought that I was searching for something more purpose, more growth, more direction. I had this feeling that there was something else out there for me, and I wanted to explore that. And I think that's something a lot of us feel. We look at our lives and we think, is this it? Am I doing enough? Should I be doing more? But what I didn't expect was through starting this podcast, through having these conversations, especially after speaking with Heidi and about how we speak to ourselves. And I actually got to sort of start to see my own life more clearly. Because lately, instead of feeling like I need more, and most certainly that feeling at the moment is not there because of the overwhelm that I've felt, I am completely full. And I've also realized something completely different. I actually need less. I need less pressure, less expectation, less trying to do everything all at once, and more of what actually matters. I can't remember who said the quote, "You can have it all, but not at the same time." And that is really true. More of what actually matters is what I need. So more presence, more time to breathe, more looking after myself without guilt. And that realization has been really eye-opening because it made me admit something to myself I've been avoiding. I've taken on too much. And that's really hard for me to admit because I'm always more, 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 more. But yes, I've taken on too much. I've said yes to too many things. I've tried to juggle too many roles. I've tried to be everything to everyone. And in doing that, I've slowly moved further and further away from feeling good in my own life. And it brings me back to that saying, you can have it all, but just not at once. And at the moment, I feel that deeply. Because the problem isn't that I need more. Maybe it's that I need to get clearer on what actually matters in this season. What actually deserves my energy? What actually makes a difference? What fills up my cup instead of draining me? And that's where that shift is happening. Not just in my life, but in this podcast too. Because I can't sit here and talk about finding the sweet spot in life when I'm not actually living it. And right now, I'm not. I'm out of balance. I am stretched way too thin. And I know that I'm not the only one. I know that there's so many women listening to this who feel exactly the same, who are doing a lot and carrying a lot, holding everything together, and maybe quietly wondering, when do I get to feel like myself again? And that's why I don't want this podcast to just be about chasing something more anymore. I don't want it to feel like another thing we add to our lives, another expectation, another pressure, another reminder that somehow we're not doing enough. I want this space to feel different. I want it to feel like somewhere you can come and exhale. A place where you feel understood, where you feel less alone, where you can take something away that actually helps. Because the truth is, I don't have all the answers. And I don't think I'm supposed to. But what I do have is the ability to have real conversations. I want the conversations to be with women who are living real lives, women who are juggling work, family, expectations, women who have gone through challenges, who are right in the middle of them, women who have learned things or are still figuring it out, like me, like you maybe. And I think that there's so much power in that, because sometimes what we need isn't more advice, it's connection. It's hearing someone else say, "Oh, I feel like that too," or "I've been there." You're not the only one. And that's why this podcast is evolving. We're moving forward. This is going to be a space for real conversations with real women about life. Yes, there will be, if I can get them. And please feel free to reach out. If you ever want to have a chat, and you feel like there's a situation that you've had that you would like to have a chat about, and put it out there, because other women may be feeling the same way. Some may be experts. Some may be life coaches, or there might be conversations around health and mindset and growth. But they'll also be everyday women who you would pass down the street. The single mum who's raising 4 kids on her own and working 2 jobs. Or a very career-minded woman who has a family and a thriving career. A stay-at-home mum. A stay-at-home mum that might have a little side hustle. Women who might not even have children still have something to offer. Whether you're 18 or whether you're 75, every woman has a story. And it's women with stories and experiences. And women that might not think their life is that interesting, but they have so much to offer. Because every woman has something someone else needs to hear. These conversations are going to be honest, they're going to be relatable, and they're going to reflect what life actually looks like. Not some perfect picture that needs to be put out here. When you're trying to do a lot, and you're also still trying to feel like yourself in the process. Because the more I think about it, the sweet spot of life is not doing more. It's doing what actually matters. It's about creating a life that feels good to be in. Not just one that looks good from the outside or on social media, but right now. And I'm still figuring that out. But I'm also starting to realize something really important. Maybe the sweet spot isn't something we arrive at. Maybe it's something we keep adjusting and reassessing, realigning as life changes. And right now, my version of the sweet spot looks like this. Slowing down where I can, be more intentional, taking better care of myself, letting go of the things that don't need to be there. Not perfectly, not all at once, but gradually. And I want this podcast to reflect that. I want it to grow with me. I want it to feel real and not polished. Not perfect, just honest. And I'm really excited about what's coming next. Because on the next episode is something I genuinely need right now. I'll be joined by Coach D, who's a personal trainer. And we are going to talk about how to actually take care of your body when life already feels full. not in an overwhelming way, not in a all or nothing way, but in a way that actually fits into real life. Because I think for many of us, we know what we should be doing, but making it work in our lives is the hard part. And I know that that's something that I struggle with. I know that I should be eating well. I know I should be moving, but I just can't make it work in my life. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you feel like you've been putting yourself last, if you feel like you've lost a bit of yourself in the juggle of life and your health and your fitness, this next episode is for you. So if this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it or send it to another woman who might need to hear this. As I said, if you ever want to have a chat on this podcast just about life and about where you're at, and if you have experiences that you feel that other women could benefit from, please reach out. We are on Instagram and YouTube, so please reach out to me, and I'd love to have a chat with you. And as always, thank you for being here. This is what the sweet spot of life is really about.